Snicked Wolverine number 7. Let's get into it.
I don't care whose skin you're wearing, bub, but I'm dying to find out what's inside.
What's going on, guys? BTC here, back with another episode of Wolverine Wednesday. Kind of changing the name here, but it's essentially we're reviewing Wolverine comics from Volume 2 that started, I believe, in 1988. John Buscema and Chris Claremont kind of started the volume and carried it, or tossed the baton to other great writers and artists. Over time, it's about 189 issues. For those of you that are new to the series, new to the channel, I don't know how long we're going to go. 189 issues is a long time. Definitely don't know if I have it in me to do a YouTube video for every single issue. But the immediate goal is to go through the first 20 issues. And it's been a while since I've reviewed a Wolverine issue. But we have made it to issue 7. I have made a playlist. If you would like to go back and watch any of my other reviews on the first 6 Wolverine issues, kind of a walkthrough style. It's meant for you guys to not have to read these issues if you don't own them or don't wish to collect them. You can just follow along and get everything you know from my walkthroughs. Alright, now that that's taken care of, let's get into it. So in the first page immediately, we're introduced to Joe Fixit. I mean, he's on the cover here. You want to see Joe Fixit, right? Some generic, no-named businessman. And this kind of generic exposition just to introduce Joe Fixit into the scene. Kind of a plot we've all heard before in action movies, right? This guy with too much money, he's getting greedy, and he needs some enforcers to expand his business interests, right? That's what's going on here. He's employed Joe Fixit to expand his operations in the Middle East. And that's essentially the first 2 pages. A lot of exposition here, not a lot of plot development. We're immediately taken into, by the 3rd page, taken into the end of issue 6. Issue 6 is just the latest confrontation between General Coy, Bloodsport, and Roundhouse. They all clashed at a mansion, I believe, or it was a hotel room. I can't remember. It's been a while. Wolverine, or aka Patch, Lindsay McCabe, Jessica Drew. I always want to call her Nancy Drew, but Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, Tiger, who's a rival crime lord of General Coy's, kind of in his way, and General Coy's niece. They are fighting General Coy and his goons. Well, it looked like Wolverine's side had won, and then at the end of issue 6, the Prince pops in, and that's like literally the dead last page of issue 6. In issue 7 here we are, right immediately at the end of issue 6. The Prince has taken over for General Coy. He's going to bring in the prisoners, but he suddenly realizes who is in the midst, in the company of Patch, and it's none other than the famous actress Lindsay McCabe, and he's the world's biggest fan. He immediately changes his tune, his attitude towards Wolverine and company, and starts to treat them like guests rather than prisoners. And of course, General Coy's mad. You know, these guys have been in my way. You need to kill these people. Yada, yada, yada. That whole spiel. But the Prince wouldn't have it. The Prince is the ruler of Madripoor. He's even over General Coy. And he's not going to kill Lindsay McCabe and her friends as he sees it. Well, we're then taken to kind of a filler scene here where Joe Fixit, we don't know Joe Fixit is in this limousine, but we're taken to a scene of an attractive lady. Attractive is subjective, right? But apparently she's attractive. She's pumping gas into a limousine. She's the driver of this limousine. And some generic cookie cutter off the streets bikers come up and start hitting on her. And this is actually the second time she's been hit hit on in the book. I will address that later on in the end of the video. But she fights back. She's being tired of being hit on, and she punches the ringleader, and his posse starts making fun of him and teasing him. And he responds by hitting a woman. You know, total coward move, right? A man that can hit a woman. Oh, you're such a big badass, right? He then takes his knife and proceeds to do the equivalent of keying this limousine. And Joe Fixit steps out of the limousine. You know, if Hulk steps out of a vehicle, you're just like, you know, at the Hulk. And that kind of played in my head as I was seeing this panel. And most of the posse decides this isn't worth it. Let's get away. But the ringleader decides, I'm not scared of Mr. Fixit. I'm going to take a board and swap it across his face. And then I'll get away when I just learn that this board doesn't do anything to Mr. Fixit. Of course, it's my understanding the Hulk can jump 3 miles at a time. So this motorcycle has no chance of getting away from Mr. Fixit. And he jumps into the way of the motorcycle onto the interstate, grabs the ringleader by the neck, and tells him he's like a zit. And what do you do with zits? You pop them. And off panel, whatever happens with this gentleman, I assume because Joe Fixit isn't portrayed as a bad guy, even though the first page kind of set him up as one, just kind of some shady business dealings there at the beginning kind of made me think Fixit was going to play the part of a bad guy in this story. But I just was getting the vibe that he's not a total bad guy in this story. It's why I assume that he let this guy just go away and he didn't kill him. Although Joe Fixit did make the subliminal comment of he saw the light. So maybe he did kill him. Maybe he did pop him. And then they proceed to ride. We don't know where they ride at the end of the scene, but we later learn they ride to the LAX airport. In the middle of that car trip, we're taken to a small scene where we see Tiger kind of talking to herself, thinking out loud about her outfit, how it was supposed to be given to Lindsay McCabe, and she wishes she could take it off, but it kind of like bound itself to her. And then Wolverine yanks her up onto the rooftops, and they have a conversation. Just kind of about where the plot's going is really what's going on in this scene. Not a whole lot going on. Kind of on the nose, things we've already been reading, things we already know about. But she's kind of astonished Wolverine has the ability to pull that mask off of her because the outfit kind of attached itself to her in a way. And that's really kind of the end of that scene. And then we're taken to the Madripoor airport where Joe Fixit lands. And Joe Fixit is loading up the car, and the car hop that is supposed to, I assume, the driver to drive Joe Fixit to the hotel in Madripoor wants a tip. And Joe Fixit says, I'm not going to tip you. I've done all the work. And he goes to shoot Joe Fixit in the face, which was kind of jarring. Why would you think pulling a gun on Hulk would work is beyond me. But he did it, pulled the trigger, nothing happened, and after he kind of came back from his shock of that gun not hurting him, he tells the goons in hiding to sick it on Joe Fixit. And who do you know has been telling Joe Fixit in the shadows? Patch. Patch comes to his aid. They take care of the goons, and Joe Fixit makes it to his hotel, and Wolverine patiently waits till dawn to make his move. Whatever his move is not explained. It's not even shown. But he steps into the room and lights his cigar. And he says in one of the narrator blocks that he almost broke his cover from laughing out loud because he saw that the Hulk does not like sunlight. And it's none other than Bruce Banner there in the bed. And that's the end of the issue. Not too much. Not really a need to walk through every single page in this issue. And just kind of 4 main acts. There was a big filler issue, or there's a big filler scene that I didn't even feel like needed explaining. There's a part of the scene where we go back to the Prince and Lindsay McCabe, and he just shows her around his trophy room. And that's kind of it. They're just kind of going over her history, and we're learning more about Lindsay, but that's really the meat and potatoes. What we need to take from that scene is learning more about Lindsay and learning that the Prince has a shrine dedicated to her. Really not too much going on in that scene. And on that note, there wasn't too much going on in this issue. The whole thing was really filler. I didn't understand the two scenes where Joe Fixit's driver was being hit on. Do we really need to see that many? We really need to see that many times of her being hit on, unless maybe his driver is going to take a bigger part in the story later on. We'll just have to see how that plays out. But I didn't understand why she needed to be hit on twice back to back, almost in the book. That was just kind of needless. The whole scene of the Prince and Lindsay was kind of needless. I really didn't need to see Lindsay or the Prince anymore in that issue. Because, I mean, the plot really didn't move with those two characters. I didn't even feel like we got from point A to point B in this issue. I feel like we got from point A to point A, almost B. I don't know. It just a really big filler issue. I didn't really care too much for this issue. I mean, was the writing bad? Was the art bad? No, it was good writing. It was exposition heavy. It took me, I read it one time through, and then I needed to reference it again in my first take recording this video. And I've had to do that with this series because Chris Claremont's really exposition heavy, and it's hard for me to just read it one time and have it memorized. I really need to kind of soak Chris Claremont's writing in, and that's not a bad thing. If anything, that's just that's on me. I need to learn to comprehend a little better, train my comprehension a little better. There's a lot of things that Chris Claremont's trying to move in his story, but I don't feel like he moved them all that much in this issue. So that's really my issue with this specific issue, is that nothing really, the chess match between Coy and Wolverine and whatever Joe Fixit is doing, really those pieces didn't really get moved around the board all that much. Maybe Chris was just kind of biding time for issue 8. I'm not sure, but not one of my more favorite issues in the run for sure. But I am excited for issue 8. That's that iconic Wolverine Joe Fixit cover, and I'm excited to see those two work together. I'm so used to Wolverine and Hulk working against each other, fighting, trying to kill each other. It'd be nice to see them work with each other for a change. Well, that will do it for me in this episode. Thank you as always for liking, subscribing, commenting. One thing before I go, I start my job next week, so expect the episodes to come out late. I don't know if I'm going to have time on lunch or whatever to upload these videos. I'll try to have them backlogged for you guys, have them ready to go prior to when I start working. But I just don't know when I'll be able to get them uploaded. So just say by between 7 and 9 p.m. Every day next week. Expect Miracle Monday and Wolverine Wednesday. Hopefully WrestleMania 10, but I'm not sure how that's going to play out. It's going to be a lot of watching and note-taking for WrestleMania 10. But yeah, that'll do it for me. Done with the house cleaning. See you guys next time.